Oh, the important thing about Gravner as an estate, everybody knows, at least people who collect wine and who like Italian wine are aware of Gravner and the importance that this winery has, not just in Friuli, Venezia Giulia, but in Italy. But I'm going to even go further back. And what I'd like people to know and understand is that Gravner has always been one of the leading wine estates of Friuli, Venezia Giulia and Italy, long before it became famous for its amphoras or its orange wines or anything like that. In fact, you know, the renaissance of quality Italian white wines began in Friuli, Venezia Giulia, really at the early 1970s, when Italian white wine was generally often easily oxidized and not especially age-worthy, began to be made in a much cleaner, fresher, more age-worthy way. And certainly some of the greatest white wines of the early 80s were those of 4 or 5 Friuli, Venezia Giulia estates, of which one was Gravner. And I remember you had the label with the fauno. You had that sort of yeah, he was lying back.
Terrible. Was terrible.
Yes, it wasn't the prettiest label. No.
No. At the time was quite common, but maybe you remember we were very lucky because in the early 80s when we started importing to US, or better to export to US, this label wasn't approved because the Bacchus was naked, and which obligated us to change the label. And I think this was a big restart with a much nicer label.
Actually, it's true that the Gravner's label today is one of the most iconic, one of the easiest to recognize. It really is beautiful. But I just wanted to stress to people out there who are listening tonight for the first time that Gravner does not begin with macerated wines, with orange wines, with amphora wines. That is all very important, and it characterizes the recent history of the estate. But it's important that people understand that just like Gaia, and just like Biondi Santi, and just like Quintarelli, and just like Mastro Berardino have had a long history in Italy, so has Gravner, and they were making fantastically clean, pure, varietally accurate wines already in the 1980s. And I, for one, remember how good the Ribolla Gialla was already in the early 1980s. But that's just to introduce, because sometimes I think we forget about the past, and instead it's very important that people realize that Gravner is an estate that has a long history of very fine wines. Do you want to translate something? Yes. We'll let the echo translate, and then we'll start talking about Gravner today.
Yeah, I'll translate a little bit, like a brief translation.
Sure. Now people are gonna.
Yeah. So, 今天我们要讲的 Gravner， 相信大家一定是以它的橘酒以及 Ribolla Gialla 这一种当地有特色的葡萄品种知道其成名。但是我们要知道的是，早在1970年代。其实 Friuli 产区已经是当地巨负盛名的酿造矿质感、清新感的白葡萄酒产区。在这个产区当中呢，Ribolla Gialla 是当地的最负盛名的一种白葡萄品种。今天呢，我们将会由 Mattea 女士来跟我们分享这一种葡萄品种以及 Gravner 的丰富的历史。好，有请 Mattea.
Okay, so Mattea, tell us about your estate today, and we're all ears.
Yes, I just need a minute because I wanted to oh, I'm not able to. Okay, I'm sorry. I wanted to.
No problem. You have time.
Oh, okay, thank you.
No problem.
Oh, no, okay.
We don't have any bottles of them? Okay. Maybe we have one downstairs.
Okay, I can ask.
No, it's
okay.
Let me think.
We are right on the border with Slovenia.
If she shows any videos, I can maybe dart out.
I can do it.
Which,
But do you know what they look like? I mean, maybe I know where it is.
yeah. Okay. Yeah. So we are right on the border with Slovenia, and what we produce mainly ribolla. Maybe you heard about this. Between 2011 and 2012, we ripped out all the international white varieties. Before, we used to produce a wine which was called Bianco Breg. Bianco Breg was made with Sauvignon, Pinot Grigio, Chardonnay, and Riesling Italico, Welsh Riesling. Between 2011 and 2012, we get concentrated only about ribolla. And nowadays we produce the 95% of our production is concentrated on ribolla, produced on both the side of the border, because few of our vineyards are on the Slovenian side. The farthest vineyard is less than 3 kilometers from the winery, but being so on the border, we are able to produce on both the sides. Apart from ribolla, we have a small production of red wine, or the red grape, mainly is Pignolo. So the idea is to get concentrated about really local varieties, because they are the best fitting to our climate, to our area. It's for us, this is something very, very important. We decided that we would like to find the best expression of our terroir, getting through the varieties. They are the best fitting to this, which doesn't mean that other varieties are not good, such as Sauvignon or Chardonnay, but in our area, they can easily get in trouble. And why should we waste the best areas we have for producing ribolla in order to produce just average Chardonnay or just average Sauvignon? And this is something people often don't understand, because we are not saying that Chardonnay is not good or that Sauvignon is an average quality grape. We are just saying that in our area, they can never reach the high quality ribolla can have.
It's true, you know, and people need to realize that ribolla gialla has a very long history, mentioned already back in the 1100s. Back then, when they talked about ribolla, they may in fact have been talking more of a wine than a grape, but in fact, there are citations of a ribolla gialla in 1285, Acerbi already listed both ribolla gialla and ribolla verde, but there are notary documents dating back to 1199 in the Notariorum Ioppi by Ermanno di Gemona. So it's a grape or a wine that has been made forever in Friuli Venezia Giulia, and particularly in the Collio. So of course it characterizes you. And I think your idea is totally valid and totally right. And I think that it's like Chambertin. You don't want to grow Cabernet Sauvignon there. Nothing wrong with Cabernet Sauvignon, but maybe not in Chambertin. And if you have the Doctor Vineyard in Berncastel, you probably want to grow Riesling there. You don't want to grow Pinot Gris because that is the Doctor Vineyard. So if you're lucky enough to be in the Collio, and especially Oslavia, then of course you want to grow ribolla gialla.
Yes, this is what we believe. The trouble is that in the 60s, when the DOC Collio was finally approved, ribolla was supposed to be in the whole Collio area, not the main variety, which can even be true, because producing in Oslavia is a small village, is part of the Gorizia municipality, compared to Cormons, which is a larger village, has much less production. But it's even true that in Cormons, they have wonderful areas, especially for the Tokai grape, which is giving today a wine called Friulano. Or they, in other areas, they have wonderful position for Malvasia. So we are not claiming that Ribolla should be the only variety in Collio, of course, but why forgetting it in Oslavia? This is our concern. Why should we forget it that in Oslavia we can have a special Ribolla? And from the other side, the denomination permitted to produce many different varieties, so not only Ribolla. And once you spread the customer attention between 10, 15 different varieties, is then pretty difficult to communicate it. So I think this is what we have to restore in the future. So getting first concentrated about what the best we can produce in our area. And once we have it, we need to be really patient and to communicate it well to customers, to clients all around the world.
Mm-hmm. Do you want to translate? Or? Okay, she's going to translate a bit and then, okay.
Yeah. 对，那么在之前，Mattea 也提到，因为在 Gravner 在他们的2011年之前，还有另一个 label， 另一个酒标叫做Bianco Greg。那这一个酒标呢，其实它是由不同的白葡萄品种的混酿，它包括了霞多丽、Chardonnay， 还有长相思 Sauvignon Blanc， 还有雷司令 Riesling 这个几种不同的葡萄品种，然后把它混酿做成了另外一个 Greg 这一款酒。那这一款酒当中，大家一定会有另外一种感觉，因为这个就是我们大家所熟知的国际葡萄品种。那在这个过程当中，其实 Gravner 是做了非常大胆的尝试，以及非常大胆的探索的。第一个点是在于 Ribolla Gialla 这一种葡萄品种，他们决定说，在2013年开始，我们就仅仅酿造专注于 Ribolla Gialla， 因为在Oslavia 这个小小的村庄当中，这个村庄其实是可以被誉为当地的一个特级园的这样一块宝地。在这一块特级园当中，只有 Ribolla Gialla 才可以展现出对于当地风土的一个最极致的展现。但是像其他的葡萄品种，比如说像雷司令啊、长相思啊、霞多丽啊，它们虽然也可以非常好的生长在这一块土地上，但是酿出来的酒却平平无奇。所以为什么我们要去拔掉当地的宝物，而去引进这种国际盛产的葡萄品种，而来取悦市场呢？所以当时 Gravner 就决定，他们要为了复兴这种小众的葡萄品种，并且呢，为了可以更多的展现当地的风土来作为一个先驱者。
So just so people understand where you are, Mattea, so Friuli Venezia Giulia is a region in the northeastern corner of Italy. It is basically located below the Alps and immediately on the border with Slovenia. In fact, when you stand in the area where Gravner is located, on your Italian phone, even though you're in Italy, you're very close to the Slovenian border, you actually start getting messages in Slovenian because you're that close to the border. It's really, really crazy. And you got to look around to make sure you haven't crossed the border. But no, I'm kidding. But you do get these messages in Slovenian because you're right there at the border. Basically, the Friuli Venezia Giulia, like I said, is the area where the quality white wine movement of Italy started in the 70s. And still today, it is where the greatest Italian white wines are made, along with Alto Adige. And Friuli Venezia Giulia is divided in different appellations or denominations. And Mattea is located in the Collio. The Collio has long been considered to be the single greatest white wine area of Italy. And the Collio is essentially located in between two rivers, the Udrio and the Isonzo. Slovenia is to the east, and to the west, you have another denomination called the Colli Orientali del Friuli, or Friuli Colli Orientali. So it's in this northeastern corner of Italy. It is basically an entirely hilly area, which is very important. The Collio is a hillside denomination because parts of Friuli Venezia Giulia are instead flatland. And we know that the quality white wines usually are made on hillsides. This is especially important for Ribolla Gialla. So this is just so people understand where the Gravner estate is located. And is she trying to show something or something?
Maybe there's a.
Do you want to show a PowerPoint? But yeah, okay.
Yes, I just prepared few pictures. They are going to the 4 seasons just to and so we can use them as a kind of virtual visit to our winery. Sadly, in the cellar we don't have the Wi-Fi, so and the same in the vineyard, so we have to imagine a little bit what and this is okay. It's a fall, so it's the wrong season, but this hilly area is just to show you what our vineyards are. And as you were just telling, is about a pretty hilly area. We are not very far from the seaside. We are 22 kilometers from the seaside and 40 kilometers from the mountains. So it's a wonderful combination. This hilly area, we have a lot of sun. We have in average the same quantity of rain as Bordeaux has. And we have in average the same quantity of sun as Tuscany has, which means we have a lot of sun with the right humidity, right rain. Maybe you have heard about this. In the last 2 years, Italy, especially northern Italy, is facing with big trouble with water. In Friuli, we are probably the luckiest part of Italy because we still have a little bit of rain, and having a big quantity of forest. This make the climate being a little bit milder compared to other colleagues. They are facing this incredible dry period in the all around Italy. So we actually, in order to have this, we started many years ago. Collio has always been a pretty mixed area. There was always an important production of fruits, mainly cherries and apricots. We have a lot of peaches. We have a lot of forest, and they are all around vineyards and all around the houses. And we noted this when in the 80s, my father was preparing new vineyards, and the new vineyards were mainly just vines, what a vineyard is supposed to be. The problem is that when you have a monoculture, an important monoculture, which means you grow only one kind of plants, you lose biodiversity, and the diversity is always a richness, because this means that you decrease all the illnesses, all the diseases, bringing other plants, other kind of trees, bringing different kind of grass, bringing other animals means that, of course, they bring their own diseases, but they reduce the impact from the main production diseases. So this was something we started doing in the 80s, and you can see that even in between the rows, in between the terraces, we have a lot of trees. Maybe you need a little bit of time to translate. I will stop here because I have so many things I would like to tell you.
Oh, it's great.
We have to.
Oh, it's great. It's great. It's great. No, we'll translate. This is great. Go ahead.
Yeah, it is. It is a very beautiful area, beautiful scenery. 刚刚我们在屏幕上面现在看到的就是非常美丽的在 Friuli 产区这个 Collio 这个子产区当中 Gravner 位于的地方。那这个地方呢，介于斯洛文尼亚和意大利东北的这一条线的交接处，所以刚刚我们还开玩笑说有可能不小心就是